Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and this morning I'm looking at a book from Routledge. It's the Optimised series. I've done a review on land law. This one is actually on equity and trusts. I'll show you the book. It's the Optimised Law Revision series, result focused. That's the front copy of it there. Equity and Trust by Judith Riches. Got some comments about it. There's the back. This is to understand the law and remember the details, avoid common mistakes and get the most from your revision. Now you can see how it operates from the back. Let me just show you a little bit. The book's not very big, just under 300 pages. There's the index at the back. You've got lots of diagrams, very useful too, because this is not an easy subject to understand, equity and trusts. So you've got diagrams. This is about trustees' powers, for instance, and throughout you've got things like chapter maps. Very helpful. I'll talk a little bit more about them later on. There's a companion website which I shall also talk about. There's the front of it. You can see. That tells you about the Optimised series. These are a number of books which Routledge have produced, which I think are very helpful. You've got 13 topic areas which are covered here for revision, and you can pick what you want. This explains Optimise Your Blueprint for Exam Success, which is their little sort of title for their mission. There's a bit more about Optimise there, and then you've got the preface itself, which is always worth reading to get an idea of what she's advising. She's actually giving you very general advice here. Then you've got the companion website, which I do advise you to read, because it's quite important to know what this is about, because it keeps you up to date. That's what it looks like on the web itself. You've also got tables of cases, which you can see there. Then we go straight in to introduction to equity and trust. You see you've got an introduction there. You've got a little index straight away of what the revision objectives are. So the theory is you've already done quite a lot of work, so this should not all be brand new to you. But certainly what it does is understand the law, remember the details, reflect critically on the areas of debate. That's the important bit academically. Then contextualise, a bit of an unfortunate word that one, and apply your skills and knowledge, because that's really what it's about. Then you get the chapter map, what are trusts, then you get a scenario, they like those words, a scenario being a little practical exercise, an activity, whatever you want to call them. They have wonderful words in the academic world. Then you have case law. And one of the delights about a lot of these cases is these subjects is the case law is really interesting, and putting it into practice and feedback on putting it into practice. It's very important to remember with all of these subjects that you do the law, but when you become a barrister, as I am, you've then got to advise clients. And they're not really interested so much in the law, because they're human beings and they've got a problem. They come to you because they want some sort of relief from the problem, whether it's a financial relief, an order, whatever it might be. So it's really quite important to have the grasp of the law and then to understand what the people have got as a problem and how we solve it, because it is about problem solving really. And in fact the examinations, whilst they're looking for you to identify the academic issues, possibly weaknesses in a statute or weaknesses in a case law decision by a judge, what we're looking at the end of the day is whether you've got a real understanding of what the issues are. Now what we've got here with equity and trusts in this Optimised series is they're dealing with a difficult area of law, and they're dealing with it very well indeed, and Judith Riches has done that admirably in my view. Now my wife Elizabeth and I have written a number of reviews, and this one on this particular subject, we've written it the title, These Optimise Your Blueprint for Exam Success Tips for the Difficult Subjects of Equity and Trusts Law are superb for your final revision programme. And we mean it, they are, because you do need to have something like this which will assist you. You've got law cards, you've got a whole range of other things that are available, but these do help too, I think. So what Judith has tried to do here is produce in an excellent statement of the main points of study, covering what are 13 main topic areas for equity and for trusts, optimising the law and catering for undergraduates looking for a departure from the traditional law texts and revision materials which are available. And the table of key cases provides a particularly useful aid to learning, and the publishers Routledge, who are part of the Taylor and Francis group, state you can always trust the optimised law revision results focused series of books because they've been produced with the learning needs of the students firmly in mind for revision. Remember, your final revision programme is important. You've been all the way through, you've done your assignments and everything you've been asked to do, then you've got to bring everything together. And so what you've got is you've got this book and you've got a link to the companion website on the web, which also gives you additional advice and exercises online. And obviously it's beneficial for both learners and for tutors. As Riches sets out in this excellent optimised book on this substantive law area, it's a formidable explanation of what is readily recognised as one of the hardest legal concepts, equity and trusts. Remember, it doesn't exist in other jurisdictions, like the French jurisdiction, for instance. So our concept of equity, fairness, is something that must be grasped, and it's not as easy as you think. You might think, oh, that's equitable, that's fair, but you've got the rules. And just remember the history goes back 800 years, so it's a long time that we've been trying to sort all of this out. But equity is there to deal with the harshness of the common law, in essence. And you can see how the concept of the trust developed over the centuries to deal with certain aspects, mainly, of course, involving property, realty and personality. Now, what we're talking about here is that the author has produced a document, a book, in an easily understandable, readable fashion, dealing with what are the difficult areas of the law. It may look difficult, and obviously superficially some people think it's easy, but it's statute based, so you've therefore got to know your way around the statute books as well. Now, as with all the Routledge textbooks, this particular title is one of the best on the market in our view, giving a full introduction to the way in which equity and trusts operate in England and Wales. And the chapter maps, I think, are very helpful. It'll give you a visual idea of how the system actually operates, and the sections on putting the learning into practice, whereby learners can use the material throughout to good problem solving, problem answering use, will maximise the marks that you're actually looking for. Now, the chapter summaries that you've got are also very useful, allowing the learner to pull all the threads together to assist the student with a strong measure of progress as the optimised series develops. We also consider the book as a much wider potential readership for those who may be interested in just sort of a passing interest rather than an academic or degree-based subject that they're studying, because obviously it's topical for a lot of people. One of the main reasons why we feel the Routledge series are of outstanding value, both in content and cost, is the way in which the authors, who are all legal experts, explain substantive legal issues in such a readable fashion. For both tutors and students, a decision on which textbook or revision book to use is always going to be difficult. You're going to have the main textbooks, but you do need those extra books, and this is where Routledge come in here. The Routledge texts lead the legal field. They certainly helped me to a certain extent in the early years when they were first coming out. We had law cards and various other things, and they were very helpful. I didn't have them when I did my original exams because there were very few textbooks available, and nothing like this at all. But when I came to teach the subject, I found these books to be very helpful indeed. Many of the titles that Routledge have produced are excellent because they have the links now to the website, so that's giving you a new way of actually learning. And I think, again, the future's there, the iPods, the way in which I'm doing this particular presentation. I think all of this, I hope, will help people try to understand the law in a more accessible way, because public legal education is something we desperately need. We don't have enough of at the moment. What we would say is the formats used by Routledge are also, for these books, are very helpful. They're mainstream formulas for easing the student into the methods of legal reasoning which those who are just beginning their legal studies may find helpful. It certainly helped us in the preparation of what we had to do all those years ago. So do ensure you look carefully at the texts, the titles and the texts on offer. Make sure you have up-to-date materials because the law does change. For the optimised series, of course, do look at the guide to the companion website, which I showed you earlier, because you've got to get some idea of how to use it, because the study tips are very helpful indeed. The preface and the guide itself that's in the book deal with the important matters, and they deal with things like common pitfalls, which I've indicated, which I think is a useful pointer, because that's where the first questioning will come in as, oh, I don't understand that, what's the problem? So the pitfall will hopefully answer that for you. Expressing points of view and suggestions for exam technique. Obviously the chapter maps, as I've said, I think are very good as a visual presentation for those who like that sort of thing. So for us reviewing the book, the companion website we thought were an absolute innovation because they do assist with learning and engagement in the subject matter. Now the book covers all the main topic areas which you'd want as an undergraduate or for a professional law syllabus, and it provides a full understanding of each with the supporting resources from the web. So it will give you the foundation, an indispensable foundation for an understanding of this important law of equity and trusts. Let me conclude by saying that there's much food for thought throughout these excellent optimised series of books for their topicality, and on where we are now and what we're doing in the future with this subject. I think this is the sort of area which will assist the learner greatly because we look at the way in which concepts of equity and trusts move now in the 21st century. So thank you very much to Routledge, and thank you to Judith as well for producing this excellent book. To show it to you again, there it is, and that's the back, which shows you a little bit of how to use it. What you have got, I'll just take anything out, here we go, the statutory formalities of setting up a trust, there we go, heavy stuff. But what you've got here, you've got some very interesting, you've got fascinating, you've got the Gray versus Inland Revenue and Vandervelde versus Inland Revenue. Big cases, stupendous wealth involved with the people concerned. And Vandervelde's Trust number 2, again fascinating stuff. That's one of the more difficult areas, and you've got the pitfalls. Just taken that literally out of the book, but that just gives you some idea of the fact that it becomes technical quite quickly and it becomes difficult quite quickly. So you do need to have the general picture. Then when you've got that, this book will hopefully fill in a lot of holes in your knowledge and memory. Anyway, thank you to all concerned for an excellent publication. Bye-bye and good luck with your exams. Bye.